Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle May in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I am re-releasing videos I made 3 and 4 years ago. Some of them not so long ago, because I'm collecting all the comments my viewers have made, and I'm putting together a book detailing the information that about the videos I made and the contributions that people that watch my videos made. And a lot of that information is very intelligent and informative. So I thought it might be a good idea to put a book together. And on numerous videos of mine, after I deleted all my videos about a year ago, 3 years worth of work, now it's about 4 years worth of work, all those comments were lost. Sometimes silly, the mistakes you make, you think about it later and go, oh my, I lost all that information. So I went ahead, spent the last 4 or 5 days going through my series, Freemasonry and Satanism, 155 in the series, almost 400 videos, 500 hours more. And I noticed a lot of the videos, there were no comments because they were lost the first time around when I published them. And when I republished them a year ago, I was publishing them so fast that probably a lot of people didn't have time to actually watch them. I was popping out 2 or 3 videos a day after I reorganized my videos and to get them back up on the system and renumbered and all that stuff. So that's why I'm republishing some of these videos. The one I'm doing right now is about the Dearborn Independent newspaper, magazine, whatever you want to call it, that Henry Ford, the automaker, purchased to publish information about the international Jewish problem, even called in his books and by congressional hearings here in the United States and in other countries all over the world, the world's foremost problem, the international Jew. So my research has disclosed to me it's a little bit more nefarious than international Jews. It's a compilation of secret societies and all kinds of organizations for some unscrupulous, sinister people, and maybe not full-blooded DNA people, hybrids, beings from another dimension, watchers, fallen angels, archons, Palladians, Anunnaki, reptilians, gray aliens with the UFOs and alien news since World War II and before by some researchers. So that's the story. As I'm republishing everything, I'm looking for contributions, comments, information to support my philosophy, my theory, that all these things I've been going over are connected, and that there are some sinister forces bringing us events like the recent Las Vegas shooting, and of course 9/11, and World War I, World War II, as per my investigation, taking over the Federal Reserve in 1913 and crashing the USA economic system 8 or 9 times, fleecing the American people of billions and trillions of dollars of wealth, causing all kinds of wars all over the planet, and putting it on the USA taxpayer bill, because all the money that our congressmen and presidents spend and secret society black operations they get from the Federal Reserve, which is a privately owned secret society organization. Rothschilds, Rockefeller, Morgans, Schiffs, all these names we've all become accustomed to. They borrow from the Federal Reserve, which is a private institution, and the government of the USA promises to pay it back, and the collateral is the USA taxpayer, and our wealth, and our properties, and our Social Security, and our retirement plans, everything else. So that's the story. Is I'm trying to get the news out there, bring more awareness to the fact that there is a sinister plan underway. You can call it a conspiracy theory, but it's not a theory anymore. They admit it. To bring us this new age, destroy Christianity, destroy the Islamic religion, destroy other religions, and bring us a satanic Luciferic world as per all the symbols, movies, billboards, Super Bowl halftime shows, Emmys, Grammy, rituals, satanic, Madonna, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Katy Perry, LaGrange, and so many more. Miley Cyrus, Bieber. Listen to the lyrics of the songs out there. Anyways, so this is a repeat of series number 11 for the Dearborn Independent. I've been collecting books, magazines since I started my investigation in 2005. And some of the stuff is fascinating. Dearborn Independent, Dearborn Independent, Dearborn Independent. And I have another one here. Dearborn Independent, 1927. There's an interesting article about Admiral Richard Byrd, the explorer who went to the North Pole and then to Antarctica, where now we have all those books about a hollow planet, the hollow earth, underground cities. Here's an interesting book, The Journey to the Earth's Center. Beyond the Poles. The Hollow Earth. Things crashing and dropping back there. Here's an interesting book I acquired, a Admiral Byrd Discovery. I collect a lot of old books. (1935). So I have a very interesting and diversified collection of books I've been making videos on, which seem to connect the dots that there are some nefarious activities going on. And at the top of the list, of course, is World War I, World War II, 9/11. Now we have the Las Vegas shooting. We had Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, London subway tunnel bombing, shootings. So much of this stuff, this terror, and then threats of economic destruction, threats of World War III, nuking the planet, threats of aliens, disclosure projects. What the heck is going on? So I hope you enjoy seeing this video I published several years ago. And I just wanted to explain why I'm doing it. I am seeking intelligent contribution comments from people. And to put together a book, a couple hundred pages. I've already downloaded all the pertinent data and comments I've collected over the last year or so. And like I said, several of the series in Freemasonry and Satanism, there were no comments. So I thought, well, I'll republish them. I'll delete the old version. And after you have 400 videos on YouTube, with YouTube seemingly suppressing information, those people, those videos, most of them never get past 29 or 39 or 50 views. They seem to be non-existent, my videos. And other people who are publishing videos are saying the same thing. They're being suppressed and demonetized. So it seems like the effort to shut up we the people, suppress the truth, is increasing, which means to me it will increase even further the elite, secret societies, satanic Luciferian, seemingly aristocrats of the world, the people who think they're better than the rest of us, are getting desperate. And they're going to take more desperate measures to stop the information that reaches people. So enjoy the video. Rick Miracle reporting.
So the Prime Minister of Israel, who's now deceased, Sharon, said that we control America. In the Bohemian Grove, as you can see, many of the presidents have been photographed there, and they have the cremation of care event where they throw a child, a baby, into the burning fire. All this is satanic. Even the Zionism and all its symbolism has a lot of Satanism in it. The Bohemian Grove, look it up. The Masonic Lodges, the Illuminati, Satanism. All of this stuff has all of the same symbols. The all-seeing eye on the dollar. All of this stuff seems to be pointing in a direction. Should we be concerned? Hello, Rick Miracle here again. I got a magazine in the mail today. The Dearborn Independent, 1927. It was Henry Ford's publication, and as it says here, Chronicler of the Neglected Truth. So Henry Ford purchased the newspaper, published it to try to get out what he thought was the truth. And this is 1927. So it might behoove you and me and everybody else to hear what is said here on page 6. War feeds the money trust. There is no connection between the actual costs of public improvements such as roads, schools, drainage, water, supply, street paving, or municipal buildings, and the actual cost of the money which is borrowed through issues of bonds to cover these public works. Bonds issued by the national government to pay war expenditures likewise give no indication of the cost of the funds so secured. So whenever we had any wars, we had to borrow money to pay for the wars. The profitability in this of war to the money lenders reaches stupendous totals not at all represented by the mere face value of the bonds. These show only the amount of cash received by the government and not the amount paid or to be paid by the government, that is to say, by the people. So when we have these wars, we have to borrow money, like when you buy a house, you have to borrow money and pay interest. And like when you buy a house for $100,000, over 30 years, you might be paying back $300,000, even $400,000. For a simple arithmetical proof of this fact, which somehow goes unchronicled, despite its profound significance, is evident when it is stated that while the present estimate nationally and local public indebtedness is approximately $32 billion, the actual face of the bonds covering the actual expenditures, the real public debt, which accrues from the existing public bonds totals not less than $79 billion. So we borrowed $32 billion and we owe back $79 billion, and this was in 1927. But the only published estimates that the average man or woman sees is that of the smaller sum named. So does that mean the 17 trillion that we are in debt right now in 2013 is really 40 trillion? 50 trillion? Masonry and Satanism is the title of these video series. And if we remember the Bible, when Jesus overturned the money changers' tables, he knew what he was doing. And in Babylon and Venice and other places throughout history, the money lenders, the evil people, have been making tons of money, unbelievable amounts of money, financing wars. And from my investigation, they had a hand in creating those wars. Lending money for peacetime purposes, for public works and local and state and federal improvements is hugely profitable. But after all the vast public works, roads, public buildings, paving, schools, levees, and all the diversified peacetime works which have been installed by and for the benefit of the people of this country in the last 2 decades represents a bond face value of about $13 billion. Large enough at that, almost anyone would say, but such expenditures escape criticism because they have been applied to serviceable and beautiful additions to our civilization. So we borrowed $13 billion, and we wind up with nice bridges and parks and things like that. But vast as this sum spent in peaceful endeavors, and hugely profitable as it has been for those who lend, the maw of the coordinated and organized international finance is not satisfied, and it requires that the people furnish more. War loans provide the means for this. It is finance carried to the nth power. For people will spend in a few years of war double the amount, the requirements over the period of scores of years of peace. Hence, war loans feed the insatiable beast which rides the modern skies, the fifth horseman of the apocalypse. So he might be termed. The last great war advanced the money powers of the world and gave them the vantage ground of an almost complete command over the human pawns which comprise the populations of the various nations. Organized finance has now attained a stage in its development which possesses worldwide coordination, a higher point than it has reached in the history of mankind because of the universal means of communication and transport, which have drawn together the centralized of all basic trades. Competition in the international money trade has all been eliminated. Control is central. A universal money oligarchy exists. Seems to me this would be the Rothschild families and the fabricated Federal Reserve, which was created in secret on December 23rd, 1913. Get my dates mixed up. All right, so the oligarchy exists. The great and little wars have each performed a share in entrenching this force. But the last great war was the capstone, was required to complete this citadel of power. The world is now theirs. This is 1927. World War I was complete. Taking the United States alone, the Great War left in its wake a bonded national indebtedness of approximately $24 billion per value. But this par does not in any way indicate the actual debt which the national government owes, in spite of the fact that when the face of the debt at the close of the war has now been reduced to $19.5 billion, nevertheless the United States government, the people themselves, we, actually has a sum equal to $44 billion yet to pay. So we owe $19.5 billion, but with interest it's going to be $44 billion. And there's a picture here in this magazine. So what I'm trying to say, and I'll read a little more, is that these powers are causing a world change. World War I, as we researched and investigated, reduced the power of Russia so that they could take over Russia and create communism. And they also had the Balfour Agreement agreed upon in London, which was an agreement that said that in agreement for the banksters' help, London would, and the newly created League of Nations would assist these Zionist people who wanted a homeland in Palestine called Israel to have their own country. And it has led to where we are now. It's pretty much taking over the world. And a lot of Jewish people are fighting it because they know, they're educated, and they're saying this is wrong. So please don't anybody call me that I hate Jewish people or Hebrews, because I support these Jews, not these guys. And please don't get mad at me for not being happy with this picture. These guys know exactly what's going on, and they want it stopped too. Protocols of Zion, we talked about that. Upside down. And this has been going on for about 300 years. Wherever these banksters went, for 300 years they've been after this. A new world order based out of Mount Zion, which is where Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Israel is. Like I said, the protocols have been around since 1880. They're in the Library of Congress. They're in a museum over in England, in London. It goes way back to when Moses led the Hebrews out of Egypt from slavery. He came back after meditating, and they were worshiping the bull, the pagan god. Winston Churchill was instrumental in helping them do this, as was a lot of our politicians in Washington, D.C. Israel has been growing. The blue represents Israel. On my side where my fingers are is where it started out in 46, and then of course you can see where it is today. In the news today there was a big article about building more settlements, and there was fighting going on in October 2013. There is not going to be an agreement. There is an end game, and those people like in Syria and Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan and all the surrounding countries will be subdued. And if anybody like me talks about it, you'll be called an anti-Semite or something. This is what we're experiencing. This is what they want to do in the United States. The churches and all that are involved. A lot of them are not speaking up, showing the truth. All the people in politics, we keep saying, check it out. Tex Mars sent me a letter in the mail. Look him up. Texxmarrs, Mars. And said that most of the politicians and CEOs were Zionists, Jewish, whatever, Israelis. I didn't believe him. I thought, this can't be true. I looked it up. I have a whole binder with every corporation I could find, and he was right, I was wrong. This is where the world is going. And trust me on this, it will not be nice. And I understand the menorah is going to be a huge one on display in front of the White House instead of the Christmas stuff. So Christianity and God is being removed from our society. Which, you know, if you've been, and this is, I guess, the plan, you know, Israel's up here in the corner, as I have said before. And then you can see the new border that encompasses a greater area. I didn't make these photos. I went on Zionism and photos searched on the internet. This is where I learned all this. I was shocked to find these things myself. How little we all know. And we did talk about Henry Macau's book, The Cult That Eliminate the World. He's a Canadian Jewish PhD author. Him, and like many others, are telling us the same thing. So anyways, just thought I would share with you, and I might read a little more from this book in a moment. I need a break. But Masonry and Satanism, I might want to add this one thing. A lot of people today don't believe in God. This propaganda has been on TV. They've discredited the churches, apparently during and after the Russian Revolution. The Illuminati, the banksters, these people who wanted the Israeli homeland, they instructed 1,000 men to join the Catholic Church, to be priests and everything. And as the years went by, these were infiltrators now. They wound up being bishops and everything else. So how much of this corruption was fabricated and the propaganda put out there to get people to discredit the church, to leave God and believe in Jesus, and mostly to believe in atheism. But the people that are doing this, the Masonic societies, Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, and the Rosicrucians, and all this material that I read from these groups, clearly say the word Lucifer is who they worship, who they believe in. So it just seems to me, if these people taking over the world, causing all these wars, believe in Lucifer, well, then I believe in Jesus and God. You can't be an atheist. These people, and if you read the Protocols of Zion, it says in there that in some other documents that I've looked at, that the atheist would be one of the first to go. So all the people who are being pushed into the Lady Gaga and Madonna and Miley Cyrus and all the other decadent stuff on TV, and following this path, being beguiled, fooled, led down the garden path, so to speak. These evil people know what they're doing. Anyways, thanks for listening to this portion, and I'll try to read some more. Rick Miracle, back again. I don't want to harp on it, but I just want to read a little bit from the Protocols of Zion, as it is related to money. Protocol number 6. We shall soon begin to establish huge monopolies, reservoirs of colossal riches, upon which even large fortunes of the goyim will depend to such an extent that they will go to the bottom together with the credit of the states of the day after the political smash. So this was, the protocols were written around 1880s, 1870, I'm not sure. I know that the Illuminati was created in 1776. So they're talking here that there's going to be a political crash, and even the wealthy people that are non-Zionists of the goyim will go down together. And then here a little bit further down under protocol number 6, we shall enslave Gentiles. That's anybody who's non-Jewish. At the same time, we must intensively patronize trade and industry, but first and foremost, speculation. The part played by which is to provide a counterpose to industry. So they're to complete the ruin, this is number 7 on protocol number 6, to complete the ruin of the industry of the goyim, we shall bring to the assistance of speculation the luxury which we have developed among the goyim, that greedy demand for luxury, which is swallowing up everything. We shall raise the rate of wages, which, however, will not bring any advantage to the worker, for at the same time we shall produce a rise in prices. So they wrote a plan here called the Protocols of Zion. And I want to go back now to this article that was written in 1927. And I hope I'm not boring you, but it just seems to me people need to get it, that there is a financial manipulation going on. And we have just had, since 9/11, a dozen years of wars. And when you see what's said next in this article, you're not going to be happy. One war of this kind, this is World War I, produces a highly accelerated increase in the forces of money. One big war produces more profits for the organized money interest of the world than 20 years of peace. So since 9/11, all these wars, these people that created the Federal Reserve and all the other chaos in the world have made a ton of money. And it says here, if I get to it, that they're depending on the confiscatory, the ability of the government to confiscate your wealth when this demand for this money comes due. So if we owe 13 or 17 trillion, whatever the numbers they throw at us at the news, and that equates to 30 or 40 or 50 trillion, 13 or 17 trillion, and if they call in that money due, they have the laws, the right on their side to confiscate everything you own, all of us. But measures in the expenditures on peacetime projects in the last 2 centuries, one big war financed by orthodox methods which no voice is ever raised to question, equals the volume of loans and profits to the money powers 200 years of peace and civilization. So the money they made in this war, what it would have cost the United States in expenses for 200 years in this one war. The public debt of this country is based on what is called low interest rate. Otherwise, the figures stated above would be multiplied to murderous dimensions if already the total obligation is not killing. Is there any doubt in anybody's mind that when they cut off the food stamps to people across the United States, this is October 2013, it was already in the news this month that they were dabbling in that, and then we had the government shutdown, and then there were riots, and it's been in the news. They have their hand on a throttle here, and they know it. Do they intend to drive that vehicle of destruction? That's the million-dollar question, or in this case, the trillion-dollar question. Little ad-libbing on my part. European governments are mortgaged at a rate whereby they are indebted by 76 billion for every 20 billion borrowed. So the European governments back in 1927 owe 76 billion whenever they borrow 20 billion. Belgium, the nation that had the sympathy and aid of the world 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, that's what it says here, was forced to make a loan of $100 million last year, which the international banks that hold the bonds and the sum will receive in return a total of 523 million. So they borrowed 100 million and they owe back 523 million, which the citizens of Belgium are going to pay one way or the other, because the banksters are not going to walk away from this money that's owed them, the Rothschilds, the Illuminati, the Zionists. Part of this represents the actual sum given to Belgium for her needs. She actually received 94 million. So I guess the broker fee was 6 million. And the agreed amount, and the rest, 429, represents what? Human sympathy? So these banksters, loaning a nation $100 billion, make 429 billion profit. Who are these banksters? Why do we allow this? Where is the world's sympathy and wish to aid of 10 years ago? This difference is profits and legitimate charges and goes to the banks or the lenders. Those nations, like those individuals, who most need sympathy, apparently prove to be the most profitable objects upon which to endow charity and help. One should be glad to be a United Stateser. Money doesn't cost us so much over here. The United States government could probably borrow $100 million today at 4% for 33 years. And this would therefore amount to a total obligation of 291. So we borrow $100 million and we owe back 291, almost 300 million. This was 1927. So this money we owe now, is that what total we owe, or is there actually 30 or 40 trillion? And will the United States use its legal ability to confiscate every citizen's wealth? Makes you wonder about the mandatory health care plan, where they can just dip out of your account whatever they want, like they did in Cyprus recently. Do they have a plan and they're not telling us? The series is Masonry and Satanism, and all of our politicians we know are Freemasons, like George Bush and the Skull and Bones, and John Adams, a president of the United States, who wrote a book, Lessons on Freemasonry, said back then that they were determined to not allow any non-Masons into the political arena. And then all the supporting personnel, like Obama's team or Bush's team, they were all Jewish, Zionists, or Israel dual citizens. It's 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. So I'm getting a little tired. So, it seems like something sinister is going on, hence Masonry and Satanism. Where is it going to take us? And while this explains how much better off we are, we're paying 3 for borrowing 100, and Belgium's paying 5 for borrowing 100. As a nation and a people, nevertheless, does it obscure or excuse the fact that we have ourselves already purchased about 32 billion of funds and have agreed to pay, therefore, on the installment plan, which is the stomach, backbone, and brains of finance, a sum equal to 76 billions back in 1927. These people were raping us back then, and they're raping us now. Cato, that old Roman, so I suppose Cato was a Roman hierarchy or emperor, was asked what he thought of usury, interest. Remember Jesus turning over the money changers' tables? He said that it is said that he made no other answer to the question than by asking the person who spoke to him what he thought of murder. So the guy said to Cato, "What do you think of usury?" And Cato said, "Well, what do you think of murder?" I guess that was his answer. It was Cato, too, who brought about the destruction of Carthage, the Phoenician Semite menace of the ancient world. So back there in the ancient world, they had the same menace. By his insistent repeating in the Senate and out of it the cry now celebrated, Delenda est Carthage, Carthage must be destroyed. In time, a similar cry will be raised in the modern world, but directed against the modern variation of ancient Carthaginian oligarchy. The oligarchy financed world finance. The oligarchy of organized world finance. And before Carthage, there was the Babylonian Semite too, which fell. The ancient world arrayed against it. and afterwards fell Venice, for no other reason than, like those before it, it was the world center of usury. Shakespeare well knew whereof he wrote. I did read that book right here. Oh, excuse me. I'm just going to go over this book eventually. Dungeon, Fire, and Sword. This was about the Crusades from 1000 AD. You can see all my tabs in there. All my notes. To 1300 AD, 300 years. In Venice was where all the suppliers went, the banksters, the people who supplied for all the Crusades, the knights from England and France and Spain, to march across this, Turkey and all there to get to the Jerusalem in the Middle East for the Crusades. Or some of them took ships. But Venice was the place where was the world headquarters. Like today we have the Federal Reserve and the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. So this stuff has been going on forever. This article was very interesting here in 1927. And one of the things that struck me was that the government, even of the United States, of France, of Germany, of recently we saw in Cyprus, in the event of a foreclosure, the 13 trillion or 30 or 40 trillion, the government has powers to confiscate our wealth. And I'm here to say, is that part of the plan? Is that how they're going to bring about the New World Order? Is that why Halliburton has built so many FEMA camps? Is that why the governments have been buying so many bullets and doing all these exercises? And Oklahoma City bombing and Batman movie shooting in Boston and Sandy Hook and so many things and so much security staffing up. Will they use this as an excuse? And all the politicians rise up through the ranks of the lodges everywhere, and if they prove themselves controllable and agreeable to the Luciferian satanic nature of this beast, they get to be presidents. They get to be high-level politicians. And if they're honest and decent, they're not going anywhere. So anybody who says, Rick, oh, my uncle was in a lodge or something, sure, a lot of people were in there, didn't go up. They had to prove to be evil, accomplices in this crime of a world takeover. That, as we saw from Israel growing in Zionism, this is all coming out now. This is all, they starting to play around with the food stamps that they have gotten all the people addicted to. What, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 a month in food stamps? And these people are probably living off of that. They could just nip it in the bud and cause chaos from North Carolina to California, from Texas to Illinois. That's why I'm doing these videos. And I'm just showing you supporting documentation that back in 1927, if you've been watching my videos, that in 1913 the Federal Reserve was created in secret. In 1914 World War I started. In 1916 or thereabouts it ended. In 1917 they went and did the Russian Revolution. And it's written even in their books that this was planned. In Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. In the cult, the Illuminati, Henry McCall's book. In Rabbi Antelman's book. In all of this material I'm showing you, there is a truth to all this. It's planned. And I personally would like to return to my life and go out, watch a football game and sailing and have a good time and not be concerned with these issues. But somebody, somewhere, we need to stand up and speak up and do something. So I'm doing my small part, and this material that I share with you, you need to take notes. These books, don't believe me. This is a real thing going on. Heck, it was even interesting. The jpost.com, that's the leading newspaper in Jerusalem. Go take a look at it. It's got an English edition. And you can read the press releases, which are not the same they're going to tell you here in the United States in the New York Times or anything. And like I do here in the U.S., I go down in the comment section when I see the propaganda and lies, and I make comments, and then I get people insulting me and telling me to go back on my medication, etc. And I know, I can see now, it's becoming more clear, these people are probably part of this problem, or they're paid bloggers that Rumsfeld said that would the Pentagon needed to combat the information. And then, of course, we know Alex Jones has Infowars.com, and I listen to him periodically, and some other websites, and there's a lot of other writers out there, and that's why I'm doing these book reviews. It seems concerning. What do you think? Are they trying to take over the world? Or are all these books and all this stuff my imagination? Do we owe 13 or 17 trillion, or do we owe 40 or 50 or 60 trillion? Does the United States have the intent of confiscating the people's wealth to pay this debt, use it as an excuse? Will the people go along willingly? Will the Zionists get their New World Order written in the Protocols of Zion? Well, we'll see what the next book review I do is. And God bless, and thank you for watching. Hope I'm not boring you too much. Just trying to get the word out and help you, help me, and all of us have our country back. Thank you. It's funny how you give yourself a few moments, you get a thought or an idea. This one really concerns me, and everyone should consider it. Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Sharon, during a heated argument in the Jewish-Israeli Congress, he was planning on taking more of the Palestine's land or something like that. He said, "Don't worry about the USA. We control the USA." Now, anybody who has any intellect at all knows that the political action committees, and most of them are of the Israeli and other bankster types, ruling the world, are controlling the USA. And since 9/11 and all the other wars, this material I've been going over, I know I'm beating it to death, but there is a serious point here. They control the USA. They bribed the presidents, they made deals, that's how they got in office, and they got us into World War I and World War II, and all the other, even the war between the states, these people controlled for nefarious purposes to gain more control. So, if they control the USA, and if 9/11 was an inside job, which it seems pretty clear it is, and I'm going to go over a book on that one alone. It's right here somewhere. Webster Tarpley's book, 9/11 Synthetic Terror. I'll go over that next. That should be very exciting. So my next video will be that book. But anyways, if they control the USA, these people, these Illuminati, these Zionists, these banksters, these satanic people, these Masonic lodges everywhere, and they had a goal to have the New World Order headquarters be over there in Israel, Mount Zion, why it's called Zionism. And so they used the United States of America and its citizens and its military to fight the wars. So we borrowed money from them to fight their war. And let's say we borrowed 12 trillion, which means that we now owe them 40 trillion, 50 trillion. So we borrowed money from them to fight their wars, and our men and women died. And now they have all that land that we saw on the picture, and more probably soon. You know, they want to take out Iran. They're pretty much accomplishing Syria and Libya. So they're gaining control of everything. Probably going to do Lebanon, annex it. Who knows? We saw the maps. So we helped them. We borrowed money from them to fight their war. We died. And we've all suffered financially. And our country's been in anguish since 9/11. And now we owe them that money back. And then maybe they're going to use that to try to confiscate our property. They're already trying to take away our rights via the United Nations in the Communist Manifesto we discussed. So it just irks me that they control us. They control our military. They put in the press all kinds of fabricated excuses and propaganda. All these incidences that they said we have to defend the world. Well, from my videos, it should be clear that they've been in control all along. So we borrowed the money from them. We owe them the money, and they have all the land. It just seems something's not right there. I don't think we owe them the money. I think the world needs an explanation, and these people need to get the boot. That's what I think. They're going to enslave us under false pretenses. That money went for their wars. We've got 800 and 900 bases all over the world right now, the USA. Why? Who's controlling us? The U.S. citizens are not a party to this. Just saying. An important issue. An important point. Just me, Rick Miracle, thinking. You? I thought I'd do one little added tidbit to this video and read a little bit from the Bill of Rights. As provided in the first 10 amendments to the Constitution of the United States. Article 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, and they are taking Jesus and Christianity out of the United States public arena, everywhere, schools, parks, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And they've been teachers that have actually fired for talking about baby Jesus at Christmas in schools, or abridging the freedom of speech. This is your Bill of Rights. And we all know that they're spying on everybody. And freedom of speech or of the press. We also know that that one congresswoman said that people who were not employed by some company like the New York Times or one of the many other Illuminati corporate, elitist-owned Zionist propaganda newspapers, if people don't work for them, their right to the freedom of the press doesn't apply. The protections. Looks like they want their cake and eat it too. They want to deceive us and then say we can't say anything. Or the right of the people peaceably to assemble. Try having a promotion in a park or an assembly or a protest. You have to get a permit. And then they tell you where to go, which is usually in some back industrial parking lot. They're infringing on our Bill of Rights, on the Constitution of the United States. And to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Article 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There's nothing in here that says what kind of rifle or gun you can have. It says here, bear arms shall not be infringed. So our government doesn't trust us. Are we supposed to trust our government? It's a two-way street. They're arming the police departments with some heavy-duty stuff. Weapons, and you wouldn't believe, tanks even in the news. The college police department got a combat vehicle. Billions and billions of bullets these people are buying. All right, so those are the first two that I thought was important. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered at any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner as prescribed by law. It was in a newspaper here last month or so. The police barged into this house and said they needed to use it as a place to spy on the neighbor next door. And the people said, no, not our house. You can't do that. Do you have any kind of warrant? And they said no. And they actually harassed, physically got abusive, and arrested these people. This is what I'm reading about in the news these days. Yesterday in Austin on Alex Jones' show, they were arresting people for smoking cigarettes. And what they would do was real funny. The technical crime was panhandling. They would walk by and light up a cigarette in front of somebody, and the poor person would go, "Can I have a cigarette?" Boom, you're under arrest for panhandling. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Well, I said they're blowing this one right out of the water. They're spying on our computer usage. They're spying on our phones. They're taking our picture everywhere we go. We're under siege. We're under threat. The people. Where's our Bill of Rights going? Against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Well, they're just taking everything they want. And no warrant shall be issued, but upon probable cause. They're spying on everybody worldwide. And now they're saying, the national NSA, saying that, we're going to stop spying on, like President or Chancellor Merkel of Germany, the president there, and Russia and France, but we're not going to stop spying on all our people. But upon probable cause, supported by oath or an affirmation, and particularly describe the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So they can't spy on you until they swear by an oath of affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Well, I could read the rest of this, but I think I've induced you, I hope, to go online. I'm sure you can find a copy of it free. And this is the Citizens Rule Book. And apparently I've heard that if you get caught, if you get pulled over or they check you out, see that you have this, they might think you're a terrorist. Because you don't want your rights infringed upon. And at the airports, over the loudspeaker, it says if you make any snide remarks, insulting remarks, sarcasm, you could be arrested. So then your little 6-year-old little girl is going through the line and a TSA agent is sticking his hands down her pants. God forbid you say anything. That's why this series is called Masonry and Satanism. Because the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all the elites, blue bloods, princes and kings and high-level Zionist people that are wealthy banksters, they control all the Mason lodges. And this is their filter. They get all these groups and they organize things in communities and brainwash people. And, it's part of the long, hidden hand is what they call it. That's another word I learned. The hidden hand. So the Illuminati, with all these lodges, has a hidden hand in every neighborhood. And hidden people that they can trust. And they reward these people. They might wind up being chief of the dog catcher, police chief, all these gravy jobs, because they control City Hall, they control the legislature, like in John Adams' Lessons on Freemasonry. Did you know before the Republican and Democratic Party, they had the Masonry Party and the Anti-Masonry Party? I'm not kidding you. That was the name of the two parties. Not Democrats and Republicans, but Mason Party and Anti-Mason. And this is in John Adams, President of the United States book, Lessons on Freemasonry, Do not believe me. Go on a used book site, look it up, buy it for $2 or $3, and then read it. Get some education. Otherwise, it's not going to bode well for us. What are they going to do? Say that the debt got called to 13 trillion or 40 trillion, and they can't afford to send out food stamps anymore? And then people, according to the Protocols of Zion, it says they're going to do that if you go read it. Tells you exactly about the hordes in the street, murdering everybody, pillaging, stealing the food, killing everybody. The Protocols of Zion, it says that. And it says in Albert Pike's book, Morals and Dogma, he was around 1870s or whatever, during the war between the North and the South in the United States. And he was a high-level Masonic leader, 33rd degree. So he was in the Illuminati. He was a leader. He wrote the book, Morals and Dogma. And it described World War I, the economic chaos, World War II, the economic chaos, and World War III. And so far, he's right up to World War III. And even the economic chaos we are in now. So you take Morals and Dogma, and you take the Protocols of Zion, and you read them, and then you just look around yourself, look to the right, look to the left, look on TV, read the paper. The books aren't lying, because what you see is what's going on. What's written in the books is happening. It's not your brain. You're not losing your mind. It's real. All right, that's all I'm going to do on this video today. Thank you so much. Again, God bless. And I do this because I want us to keep our free world, and not like we discussed the other day, the Communist Manifesto, which just so I'll read one more time. Abolish private property rights. Agenda 21 is going on. They're doing that. The United Nations is taking over the Alamo. Did you see that in the news today? Heavy progressive income tax. All right, so what are they going to do? They're going to confiscate our money? I said that they have the right to do it, and they've done it in other countries when this debt is called by these banksters, which are non-U.S. banks. Abolish all the rights of inheritance. So even your family wealth can't be inherited, but they're going to be in control and in power. Confiscation of property of all immigrants and rebels. Am I a rebel? Central bank. This is the Communist Manifesto. This is the Illuminati, which created the Russian Revolution. This is their Bill of Rights. We read, and they want to take away our rights, the ones I just described. Government control of communications and transportation. You will not be able to leave your city, USA, and go to another city, USA, without a permit. What do you want to bet? You certainly can't call in sick. You'll be tracked with that microchip, and you'll be punished. Nobody's going to like this new world. The beguilement that people are in right now. The drugs, the drinking, the parties in all the city streets, and the TV, and the football, and all the sex and violence and craziness. It's a beguilement. I'm reminded of the Pinocchio when I was a little boy, and he took the boat over to that island, and it was a big carnival and fair. What a fantastic fantasy! That's being beguiled. It's like the Pied Piper. But then, as he was there for a little while and was led into the garden path where they were enslaving little kids, Pinocchio. That's what beguilement is. It's taking you down the path, and you don't know what is at the end of that path. The Communist Manifesto here is explaining it to you. Government ownership of factories and agriculture. And if they own it, you think they're going to let you call in sick? God forbid you get a drinking party on football night and you don't go to work. You think they're not going to punish you? Government control of labor. Corporate farms. Regional planning. Corporate farms? Does that sound like what it sounds like to me? Are they going to be busing people who don't have otherwise jobs that were shipped to China to corporate farms? Corporate farms, regional planning, government control of education. Well, he took that over. So anyways, and then of course the 10 Commandments. Don't murder, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't don't covet, don't bear false witness. The 10 Commandments are all the things that make us free. Because we don't steal, and the government shouldn't be stealing. We don't murder, the government shouldn't be murdering. We don't covet, the government shouldn't be coveting. We don't bear false witness, we shouldn't have ourselves set up and framed for crime so they can arrest us. This is happening more and more. Give up rights for the common good. That's what this global warming thing is all about. Where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. Where the government fears the people, you have liberty. So the government has to be put on notice that we're not going to allow them to suppress us with tyranny and make us slaves. At least that's my opinion. Anyways, I better shut up because I'll keep on going. God bless.